Welcome to the Cycle Show. I'm afraid it is the last in the series, but don't be sad, it's a belter. Here's what's coming up. I ride out with a racing legend without even leaving the studio, helped by the latest innovation in virtual cycling. The only way to go from there is stratospheric. Find out if the Ultra 6 left the atmosphere in their race to space. Reaching heights of a different kind, Mark Beaumont attempts 100 miles on a penny farthing. Back indoors, Rebecca Charlton raises the heart rate as she gets all in a spin, and we've let Rebecca out as well to mark the 20th anniversary of the National Cycle Network. And of course, it is the final climb of the week where it gets bumpy as well as lumpy for Simon Warren. But first, the Enduro World Series really has come on leaps and bounds this year, globe-trotting around the world as it has. In a moment, I'll be speaking to one of the men who's highly involved in it, but first, here's a flavour of what it's like. The Enduro World Series is only in its third year, but it continues to expand, and the opening event of 2015 took place in New Zealand. The series opener in Rotorua saw many big hitters of the mountain bike world, including Fabian Barrel, Nicholas Vioz and Great Britain's Dan Atherton on the start line, while Tracy Moseley represented the Brits in the women's event.
It's going to be a long day, I think so.
Timed over a number of special stages, Enduro combines both downhill and cross-country sections, testing endurance as well as technical handling skills. It was a French lockout of the top podium positions in New Zealand, with Jerome Clements taking first in the men's category.
On the stage were tricky, and like the one in the forests, you had to like keep quiet and like make sure you're not too excited.
While Anne-Caroline Chausson was the top woman, just edging out Tracy Moseley.
I made some mistakes, I had some good runs. It was a long day and a tough day.
The series headed back to Europe for the next 3 rounds, starting in Ireland. The County Wicklow-based event saw an emotional home victory for Greg Callahan, who set the fastest combined time over the 7 stages.
Yeah, I couldn't have even dreamt this day. I had the perfect day, to be honest. Like, I rode on the limit all day and only made a few tiny mistakes. So, like, yeah, I just got away with it, rolled the dice and got away with it.
While Tracy Moseley improved on her round 1 finish to take the women's event.
A bit of a home advantage in a way. It's kind of similar-ish terrain to what we've got in the UK, and certainly felt like a home race with the crowd today. It was pretty amazing to be able to ride in front of people that were that passionate and excited to come and watch this race. It certainly made me let go of the brakes a few times.
A short hop across the Irish Sea for round 3 at the Tweedlove Festival in Scotland. The clue in the title there. These events are a celebration of all that is great about mountain biking and its connection with the environment. But make no mistake, the competition is still fierce, and Justin Liov claimed the victory here. A result which saw the New Zealander take over the top spot in the series, a lead which he maintained after the last round in France. And Tracy Moseley reached the halfway point in the season as the top-ranking woman rider, as she made it a hat-trick of victories, following up her win in Ireland with wins in Scotland and France. With me now to talk all things enduro is a man who describes himself as a bicyclist, a writer, a presenter, and also a rambling man and a rational daydreamer. Richard Cunningham, good to see you, Richard.
Yeah, good to be here.
I know you're a rambling man because you ramble all over the world with the Enduro World Series. You've just got back from France. How are things going with it?
It's absolutely incredible. The series this year has been mind-blowing. We've had 4 rounds so far, 4 different winners in the men's category. And yeah, it's just the depth and the talent's incredible, and the locations we go to just can't beat them really. Like Saint-Malo, where we've just been in France, I just turned up and it's some of the best riding I've ever done, ever seen. And I did actually look in an estate agent window whilst I was there. I was like, I want to be here forever.
Well, with Enduro turning up, the prices are going to go through the roof, aren't they? Because it is just expanding and growing around the world and attracting loads more interest.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the main thing about it is that it's an authentic version of mountain biking. We've got all the different genres of mountain biking, and then Enduro's really come about. In the last few years, it's gone from strength to strength. And the Enduro World Series, which I'm presenting for, is they're in their 3rd year now, and it's just kind of how people go out for a mountain bike ride. very reflective of that. You don't really race your mates to the top of a mountain like you do in road riding. It's all about going down. So in enduro, it's, you know, easy rides up to the top, well, not too easy, but not timed, and then timed on the way down. I think that's just so reflective of what people want to do with their mates.
Because we've seen over the years, haven't we, interest in all kinds of mountain biking has sort of waxed and waned. It's gone up and down like that. And there were the peaks in the sort of 80s when it first came around, and now it feels like it's hitting another peak again. There must be a bit of you thinking, well, you know, perhaps I should have carried on, or perhaps I missed, you know, a golden age.
Yeah, my kind of stopping racing came about because I just lost that total desire to win and didn't wake up thinking about that. And I've spoken to a few people about that, and once you've lost that, you just kind of, you know, there's almost no point carrying on, I think. And I'm just more about enjoying it now. I just really, really enjoy getting out on the bike and going to these locations. And I think that's the one thing with enduro is it does get you to those locations in a racing format, which is incredible, which is kind of why I'm tempted a little bit now. But before that, it's kind of, with downhill, you just go to one track and you're kind of stuck in that paddock, that hill, that track, and it doesn't really, you don't see the surrounding area as much, which is what I really like about mountain biking.
We saw earlier in the series of the cycle show, Greg Callahan almost slumming it with his wife in the back of a sort of caravan following the series around, and that was in Ireland. You say you just come back from France. Where's it heading off to next, and how do you expect the interest to be?
Well, next week we're heading off to Colorado, going to Crested Butte there, and then week after we're off to Whistler. So that's kind of like a homeland of mountain biking, really. So those two will be incredible. Whistler's just mind-blowing with the crowds and everyone just going nuts there. It's just kind of like a whole different bubble. And Crested Butte, I've never actually been, but I've heard amazing things. Apparently there's sort of flower meadows and things like that we'll be riding through. So the images we'll be getting out of that will look beautiful, I reckon.
It's interesting. I've got a lot of friends who are road riders, essentially, but perhaps used to ride mountain bikes when they were kids, and they're getting back into it. Are you noticing that kind of thing too? Yeah,
definitely. There's a few people sort of experimenting and switching back to it, and I think a lot of that comes from how accessible it's made nowadays, because when I started out, it was just a few of us in the back of a crappy old van, just at the side of a road, just kind of like doing what we can, all bikes taped together and stuff. And now there's cycle centres with cafes at the bottom, and you turn up and there's all like loads of nice cars parked there rather than all our sort of mates piling out of an old Fiat Punto. And yeah, it's just so accessible for people to get involved now, and it's not, you don't need to know where the secret tracks are, you don't need to be in with a certain crowd. It's just, if you want to go ride a mountain bike, you can. And I think that's the same thing with road. That's, if you want to go ride a road bike, there's roads everywhere and you don't need to think too much about it.
And also, you know, you look back at some of those old mountain bikes, and at the time they looked like they were groundbreaking with, you know, suspension fork on the front. But they've gone through so many different iterations, different brakes, and now disc brakes, full suspension bikes. Has it become easier in a way to ride harder because of the technology?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there was a stage when my bikes just wouldn't last more than a couple of weeks. There was always
That's the way you ride
breaking.
them.
Yeah, it probably was. Just thrashing them completely. Yeah. Then it was just so frustrating because you'd have this component and you would have paid loads of money for it, and it just literally wasn't up to the job. And you'd just be breaking stuff all the time. Whereas now it's actually at a point where you can buy a really solid bike and it will pretty much take you anywhere. You can go ride downhill tracks on it. You can ride, it's light enough to ride sort of cross country and up the hills. And the technology definitely has made it easier, for sure.
OK, Richard, stay there for the time being. It's really exciting, actually, hearing all about enduro. Something that isn't usually considered that exciting is the world of spin classes. Having said that, they are literally trying to jazz themselves up, as Rebecca Charlton has been finding out.
Turbo trainers, rollers and static bikes, we're all familiar with them, and it's the next best thing when you can't get out on the road. But it's never been the most exciting form of cycling. Until now, that is. There's a new wave of spin classes hitting the capital, and they're anything but boring. I'm here in London to find out why spinning is booming and try some of the more weird and wonderful.
We get a lot of road cyclists coming in for their cross-training sessions. So because we're a full-body workout on a bike, they also get that core strength, they get the upper body, as well as getting the legs. We really work on freeing the mind, how you feel after the class. We really get the endorphins moving. In usual kind of spin studios, people just kind of go as fast as they can or hill climb, and it's never to the beat. So we use the music to drive you up that hill, for instance, or to drive you on that sprint.
and honestly I'm exhausted. Just hats off to those girls in there because it's really extreme, like you're doing so much more of an all-body workout and it's hot in there as well, you're sweating within the first 5 minutes, so I would do that again. And how popular is spinning now?
You know, it's really gaining a lot of traction in the UK market. In fact, I think the entire health and wellness market in the UK is becoming much more prominent than it was in the past, which is great because I think it's going to give people a lot more satisfaction and well-being in their lives.
Why is Boom Cycle so unique?
Well, Boom Cycle is so unique because we're all about the music. We all have, all of our studios, have Function One sound systems. So that's a British brand, massive speakers. They're in all kinds of the biggest nightclubs. You can really feel the bass in your chest when you come into a Boom Cycle class.
Well, I really enjoyed that one and I think I'm just about finding my stride now. The music was a massive motivator, especially if you like Justin Bieber and Beyonce, which I have to admit I do a little bit. So we've done two more to go. The next one's a little bit quirky, I'm told, so see you there. Well, to the untrained eye, it looks like I'm actually sat in a swimming pool. But in fact, this is the setting for the Aqualure spinning class, which I've just found out I'm about to take part in. It's actually quite cold. How does it vary from a class that's out of the water? Why is it unique?
While in a spinning class, the bike has the resistance. Here, the resistance is created by you going quick. So the quicker you go, the higher the resistance is going to be. It's getting quite popular, actually. Obviously, at the beginning of one month, still now when I say what to do, you know. Well, spinning in water, it's, you know, it sounds weird, but we get quite a few people that had knees operations, people that have loads of people lower back pain, this kind of things.
But I've just got changed again. I'm all dried off. That's another one ticked off the list. Now on to the next one. Well, here I am. I've arrived at One Rebel for the final class of the day. 3 down, 1 more to go, and it sounds like it's pretty cool in there, so I'm going to take a look-see on the other side. I've just grabbed Adrian, who was also in the class with me. It wasn't you I was elbowing, was it? Because it's quite dark in there. I think so, no. That's good. I don't need to apologise there. That person's obviously left. And it's pretty swanky here, isn't it?
It's more of a nightclub than a spinning studio. In there was obviously the instructor, there was a full-on sound system, the lights were dimmed constantly, flashing lights, and there was a saxophone player jazzing it up, so yeah, a little bit different from the normal studio. The spin class is a good way of just after work being able to get in, bank a 1-hour session, but they tend to be kind of you set your own intensity, whereas this class what I found was you actually were forced to ramp up that intensity a little bit more than what you're used to.
Well, I've survived it. I finished the 4th and final class of the day, and what a day it's been. I came in thinking, well, how hard can a few spinning classes be? But as you can see, I mean, it's been a tremendously exciting day. There's been so much diversity and there's really no excuse not to get out there and try one of these. There's so much fun, but that said, I'm absolutely shattered, so I'm off for a lie down.
So you thought you were watching the cycle show? Wrong. Welcome to Jazz Club. Rebecca's here with me now. Does it help having a saxophone thrust in your face when you're trying to train on a spin bike?
Do you know what I think it did? I found it rather motivating, actually, in a strange way.
I think the saxophonist seemed to enjoy himself perhaps slightly more than you did. When you were first sent on this assignment, you must have been thinking, spin classes, you know, they perform a function, but they can't be that much fun. Do you feel differently now?
Definitely, I had a lot of fun, as you could just see there. But I think I didn't really know too much about what spinning was about. I thought maybe it was just a case of pedalling really fast and perhaps didn't really relate to what we do out on the road. But I've definitely changed my mind on that. I think you can really get some quality training and a hell of a lot of fun out of it. So.
The other thing it does work on, Richard, is leg speed, which actually all cyclists could benefit from a bit extra.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've only done one spin class in my life and it nearly killed me. And so I kind of knocked it on the head after that. But yeah, leg speed for sure. It helps in all disciplines, especially mountain biking. I was talking to Tracy Mosley just this last weekend, and she runs smaller gears so that she can spin up all the hills and in between the stages and doesn't have to push too hard a gear.
And she's a great British success on the enduro scene at the moment.
She's leading out the series at the moment, and she's won 3 out of the 4 races. So yeah, if she's doing it, she knows what she's talking about.
I know, it's a good point. I might have to get a spin bike myself. I have had a go on one, you know, in a quiet room. There's no one else watching, and it is quite hard because, you know, the flywheel effect is something you don't get in the real world. You might get it on a track bike perhaps, but you don't get it when you're doing any other kind of cycling.
Yeah, it does essentially feel like you're on a bit of a fixed gear, and yeah, you're kind of turning that over so you can't abruptly stop pedaling. But yeah, I mean, one of my concerns was, will I have to wear trainers? But actually, they're all compatible with road cleats, apart from the swimming pool, obviously.
Yes,
Bare feet for that one.
weird, isn't it?
But yeah, I think it's I mean, we all love riding outdoors, but I think if you're time poor, you go into that studio for an hour and it's such hard work, and it does get your leg speed up as well, and really good interval training.
You know, Rebecca, watching that, it doesn't make you wonder who does spin classes. Are there many cyclists there, or are they all gym bunnies and well, a few swimmers as well?
I think it's changing. I think a lot more people are seeing the benefit of what they can get out on the road from the benefit of sitting in one of those rooms for an hour. But I think there are a lot of gym goers there, and perhaps cyclists haven't seen, you know, the benefits of it quite so much. But I think something that we didn't mention in there is watt bikes and training with power, and that's something I've done a lot of. But I think you throw in that music and that motivation, and a real mix of people are doing it now.
Richard, many thanks indeed. Good to see you. Best of luck with the rest of the Enduro World Series this year. Rebecca, thanks for now. We'll see you again later on in the show. But coming up after this short break, we catch up with the Race to Space guys to see if going up and down Ventoux many times got them into the stratosphere. And also, Mark Beaumont has been riding 100 miles spinning a much bigger wheel on a penny farthing. Don't go away.